Pulpit here on your hometown station. This is your holy host, the Bishop of Santa Clarita, back for another opportunity to look at the world through the lens of God's infallible Word. We've got a great lineup over the next few weeks. I just want to quickly go through some of the exciting guests we're going to have over the course of the next month or so. But obviously we're in election season. November 5th, 2024 can't come fast enough for many of us. But we've already gone through our primaries back in March. And of course we just had primaries last night in Maryland, North Carolina, Virginia, and a few other states. But we've got some folks here in California that we're hoping to get over the finish line in November. And so over the next few weeks, we'll see Lucy Volotsky here, who's running in the 26th Congressional, if I'm not mistaken. Nathan Hochman, who, of course, is going to be the hopeful for the DA for George Gascon. Had a good opportunity to meet him a couple of weeks ago, had a great conversation. Actually, just a quick shameless plug, Nathan Hochman will be one of our speakers at this year's Red, White, and Blue Sunday at Freedom's Way Baptist Church on June 30th. For those of you out there who would like to come out for a worship service that is unashamedly patriotic and loves America. So you'll be able to not only hear him here on our show on June 5th, but also be able to meet him in person for those of you who would like to on June 30th. We will also trying to get Dennis Prager this coming Saturday. I'm actually going to meet him at the temple that he teaches at down in Burbank, and so I'll have an opportunity to meet Dennis Prager and have an opportunity to see if we can get him to call in sometime. And then, of course, Patrick Lee Gibson, Congressman Garcia, and others will be our guests over the next few weeks. So excited about that. Also, if you cannot get enough of the Bishop of Santa Clarita, every Sunday here on your hometown station at 8 a.m. for 1 hour is the Faith and Freedom Hour. And so we encourage you to tune into that and get your Bible fix, if you will. And if you are ever interested in coming out to services, check us out online at freedomswaybaptistchurch.org and come by and visit us anytime. I just mentioned at the top of the hour that we had several primaries last night, but the things to watch that occurred last night were the top two Republicans who won their respective races. In West Virginia, Jim Justice, former governor, former Democrat, actually won his race outright, and he will end up going in the November election and will probably end up taking that seat from which was Democrat, flip that Republican, which will give us 50 in the Senate. And then also Larry Hogan, former governor of Maryland, won his race last night and will be going against the Democrat in November. That's going to be a bit more challenging, I think, because Maryland tends to be a pretty heavy Democratic state, but we'll see what happens there. If that does happen and Larry Hogan and Jim Justice win, that'll be 51 seats in the Senate, giving the Republicans the majority. Well, that's enough of talking about the national news. I want to head back now to the state of California. Obviously, California is a state that I was born in. California is a state that I'll probably end up dying in unless God calls me out of the Golden State. Under Gavin Newsom, we have bled about 1 million people, give or take, who have fled the state over the course of the last 4 years. Of course, we have the highest taxes, or among the highest taxes in the nation, definitely the highest gas prices, and if you haven't heard, another 50-cent gas hike is about to be thrown into the mix here in the next couple of months, unless you guys get out there and say something about it. We also have the highest cost of living and the least bang for our buck. But yet, our guest this afternoon says California is worth fighting for. Brock Campbell represents Reclaiming California Capital Ministry, which is a ministry to our state leaders in Sacramento, if you will, a missionary evangelist to Sacramento. Brock, welcome to Politics and the Pulpit.
Well, thank you, Pastor Cook. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Brock, tell everybody your full name.
My name is Brock Campbell.
And you are not at all the heir apparent to the Campbell Soup Corporation.
No, I have nothing to do with the soup.
So you're not going to have anything to do with the soup at all. So when you die, that doesn't all go to your wife and she gets to just have an endless amount of money.
She wishes, but no, no.
Well, I have known Brock and his family for several years now. They all used to attend Lighthouse Baptist Church in Santa Maria, California, another beautiful part of the state here in California. And Brock is with something called Reclaiming California Capital Ministry. So, Brock, tell the listeners a little bit about what Reclaiming California Capital Ministry is and what about California is worth saving.
Well, I was born in California here. I was born in Bakersfield, raised in Santa Maria, California.
In Bakersfield.
Bakersfield.
I'll pray for you.
Yeah. Well, I was only there for 4 years, but that's where my family's from, Bakersfield. So a couple of years ago, I started going to the Capitol with my brother up in Sacramento, and I just felt like, the Lord was calling me to do this. I went to the Capitol a couple times last year, and I saw that it was open, and it was easy to get into their offices, and most everyone there was open to talk to you, legislators, representatives, and I felt like this is something I want to do. It was exciting. I loved it. And so starting in January, we've been going to the Capitol every month for, a few days a month. We've been going up to Sacramento. We were about 5.5 hours south of Sacramento in Santa Maria. And so we go up there, and it's been an eye-opener. First of all, it's an eye-opener how open they are to walk in. You just walk into their offices, your representatives, and just talk to them. And most of them are there. If they're not there, their staff will talk to you. And one of the eye-openers that for me was when we went to oppose a bill. It was a bill, it was SB 954. It was a bill for passing out condoms in high schools. Actually not passing them out, but putting them in a place where kids could get to them without having any kind of regulation or have to ask for them. They could just get to them. And so we went there to oppose that bill. We wrote a letter to our representative opposing it and submitted that. And we got there, and you listen. You go to the committee meeting, you listen, and then you get to stand up, and you get to line up, and you get to say your organization and say if you support, or if you're in opposition, you line up and then you oppose it. And we looked at, we got these papers that had the bill synopsis on it, and there was six letters of opposition for this bill, and there was 46 letters of support for this bill to have condoms in our high schools, and so that was kind of an eye opener that there's not anyone there representing Christ, representing the Bible,
representing the sane part of this legislation.
Yes.
What was the end result of that, Brock? Did that thing get passed?
It's not passed yet, but it's passed all of its committees, and now it's going to go to the Senate floor, and it's probably going to pass. It's almost unanimous votes on that. Maybe it gets one or two opposition votes, but it's going to pass.
Yeah.
Because, you have 46 organizations. I have a list right here in front of me that support it, and there's 5 or 6 that oppose it. So it's going to pass. There's no opposition to these laws that are anti-biblical laws, Bible. There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing there, and so we want to bring the Bible back to the Capitol.
Yeah, talking about these assembly bills, I just got a text here from a pastor friend you and I know of, Tim Benefield. I'd like to just mention this real quick before we get back to our conversation about reclaiming California. Assembly Bill 3080, we're asking folks to get a floor vote for that and then ask them to vote yes on this bill. This bill would protect children from the evil and destructiveness of pornography by requiring websites with obscene and indecent material to verify the age of the viewer. So again, that's Assembly Bill 3080. Make sure that you call your legislature and get that word out. So there's something happening right there while we're live on the radio. Pastor friend, a mutual pastor friend of ours, ended up texting me that information. So maybe Tim's listening into you today, Brock.
Maybe he is.
So have you had any opposition from any of the elected representatives up there in Sacramento who have said, hey, we don't want to hear a word from you?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Just wait.
It'll come. I mean, we've had a few cold shoulders, and from some of the offices, and kind of like, yeah, say your thing and get out of here.
Yeah.
But most people have been very receptive, and even in our office, my representative, Greg Hart, and Monique Limon is our senator. They're Democrats. They're not extremist like some of them, but they're very receptive, and they listen. And every time I'm going into their offices, I'm trying to give them some Bible and give them some insights from the Bible, because they don't have that. They've never heard that. I go in there and I tell them, hey, the Bible says you need to rule justly and in the fear of God. And they take it. I don't know if they're listening to it, but they take it.
How many of them think that when you bring that stuff up about ruling in the fear of the Lord and to do justly, how many of them do you think probably say, what's the difference between this and imposing Sharia law on the United States of America or the state of California?
Oh, some of them might think that. No,
Yeah.
None of them have said that. But
Because obviously we're not going to cut their head off if they don't accept
No.
Christ, right?
No. But, like one of them, there's this guy named Matthew. He's the policy analyst for Monique Limon, our senator. And they have a bill that I was supporting because it was to help CAL FIRE clear out some of the underbrush and all this stuff to prevent these fires.
Common sense stuff.
Common sense. And it was actually a good bill. And I commended him on that. And I said, hey, this is a bill based on biblical principle. I said, God says that man should have dominion over this earth, and sometimes we just let it go, and that's a mistake, and we need to take care of it. And he actually thanked me, and he said, that was good insight. I thank you for that. And so there's hope there, even for some of these Democrats. There's hope there. And I see an opportunity to get the Bible in there, because the Bible's not been there for years. And to have the Bible, and what I'm there for is to help them and to give them insights from God's Word, to help guide them as they author these bills and the legislation.
Have you had the opportunity to meet some of the more egregious individuals in our legislature, kind of like Scott Wiener and some of these other guys that are on the extreme end of the Democratic Party, that write some of the most egregious bills that you wonder how could they ever be passed?
Yeah, I've been to Scott Wiener's office, and it's quite the circus in there, but I've never met him.
Are all of his staffers a bunch of young people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are
Yeah,
they
they're really-
multi-haired colored people?
Yes, they are. They are.
And do they look at you and you're dressed like you got your suit on or something like that. You're carrying your black King James Bible, and they're looking at you like, oh, this is a terrorist from a foreign
Yes.
country.
Yes, they did. We were delivering letters of opposition for a bill, and we handed them the letter, and they acted like they didn't even want to touch it. They just kind of held it with their two fingers, and like it was diseased or something. They did not even want to touch it. I don't look at it. So they're supposed to file that in with the bill, but who knows if that got done? I don't know.
Yeah. So, have you had some good, have made some good friendships up there, Brock? Have you got to the point where you've got some cell numbers from some of these legislatures that you've been able to have some good conversations and actually build relationships with some of them?
Yes, so Greg Hart is a Democrat, but we've built a good relationship with him, and we've talked to him a lot. And we just had a hike with Hart where we went on a little hike there in San Ynez Valley, and I got to walk with him and talk with him for a while and encourage him, to do what's right, follow God's word, follow biblical principles, precepts. We talked to his director of his Santa Barbara office. His name's Ethan, and I have a really good relationship with Greg Hart and his staff. There's his legislative director. His name is Jimmy, and we're not friends yet, but close to being, friends. And so we have a good relationship with them, and we're starting to build that up in Monique Limon's office, and plus some of the Joe Patterson. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
And we know each other now. I've talked to him a few times. I've talked to James Gallagher
James Gallagher.
a few times,
Yeah.
and we know him.
He's one of the young guns up there.
Yeah, yeah, and we try to go to their office. Shannon Grove, she's from Bakersfield. She's a
Yep.
Republican, and we last time we were up there, we visited most of the Republicans' offices and just tried to encourage them and help them and be there to support them. Juan Alanis, he's the one that authored this AB 3080
Yeah.
that you talked about, and we were there to support his bill, and it passed the first committee there, and we got to meet him after it passed, and he just thanked us for being there to support his bill. So we are building relationships there. You know, it's only been since January, well, a little bit before that, maybe October or something, but we're starting to get relationships, and people recognize us, and they'll see us in the hall and stop and talk to us. And so,
Have you had the awesome opportunity to meet Gavin Newsom?
okay, we saw him standing out in the middle of the road once. That you never see him.
Nobody ran him over.
I was surprised. It was in the middle of the intersection. It was weird. We're talking to three people in the middle of the intersection, and I was kind of hesitant. I wanted to go up and talk to him, but he's standing in the middle of the road, so I didn't get to. But I've seen him from a distance, but I haven't got to talk to him.
Does he still have that "I'm Batman"
Yeah,
voice?
he kind of looks. Yeah, but he kind of looked like the Joker to me.
Yeah, well. You know, I did have an opportunity to meet him at the Reagan Library last year in October when the radio station had me cover the Republican debate there. And he came into the room after having his entourage, you know, drive him up there, and he got out of the car, put his jacket on. Then his entourage follows him in. And then everybody in that room, as soon as he walked in, I mean, every head just looked at him. Now, obviously, you and I would agree, and I think the majority of Californians, I hope, would agree, the guy, in terms of the bills that he passes and signs, and his leadership is atrocious. But he has something, and that something has gotten him elected twice as governor and as mayor of San Francisco, and, you know, other types of things. And so it's amazing how you can legislatively be horrible, but yet there's something about you that is appealing, and a lot of these legislatures up there don't have that. When I think of Scott Wiener, when I think of James Patterson, even though he's on our side, they're great guys. Other than Scott, obviously, but Gavin's got a little bit of a charisma thing going on.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of frustration even from his home party though with him. Even Greg Hart kind of expressed some frustration with him because he hasn't given them a budget. He hasn't done his State of the Union, and so they're a little frustrated with him.
When we come back here, we're going to continue talking to Brock Campbell with Reclaiming California. And we'll talk about how churches can get involved in this ministry when we come back here on Politics The Pulpit on your hometown station. All right, we're back here live on Politics of the Pulpit. This is your holy host, the Bishop of Santa Clarita. We're talking to our guest, Brock Campbell, representing Reclaiming California Capital Ministries. And that ministry is actually up in the Central California area. Pastor friend of mine, Jerry Scheidbach, pastors the church, Lighthouse Baptist Church. And I wanted to pick Brock's brain a little bit about why California is worthy to save. And a lot of people ask me why I'm still in California, other than the fact that I was born here and I have no reason to leave unless, of course, the Lord wants me to leave. But the way I look at California, if I may, Brock, to kind of segue into you, is I look at a passage in 2 Samuel chapter 23 where one of David's mighty men by the name of Shammah, the son of Agi, he is fighting the Philistines because the Philistines have gathered into a troop. And there was a piece of ground full of lentils, and we all know that lentils is a bean. And the Bible says the people fled from the Philistines, and this is 2 Samuel 23, verses 11 and 12. But in verse 12 it says, "But he, Shammah, stood in the midst of the ground and defended it and slew the Philistines, and the Lord wrought a great victory." I think for many of us, Brock, maybe you included, to others looking at us from other red states, looking at us here in California, the bluest of the blue, we seem to be like this mighty man, Shammah, standing in a field of lentils, defending this piece of ground from all of these leftist, woke, and even weak-kneed Republicans that want to destroy our state. But yet, to everybody else, it's just a field of beans. What's the big deal? So, Brock, what's the big deal with specifically just saving the state of California? I know we have a national agenda. We'd like to see the whole world come to Christ. But why California?
Well, I guess California is my pea patch.
Yeah.
And, I love this state, and it's a great state, and it's a beautiful state. And I want to stand here and fight. Naturally, I don't want to just give up this ground to the liberals, give up California. And then, the nation, a lot of states follow California. And
as California goes, so goes the rest of the nation.
And that's just, giving up California is just quitting. And eventually the other states are going to be just as bad as California if we give up the ground here in California. I think you see it already where states are turning more democratic, more liberal already, and I just think that we shouldn't give up the fight.
Yeah, I was just talking to a friend yesterday who is planning on moving to the Coeur d'Alene, Idaho area, and he'd already told me that Boise is basically purple. Mm-hmm. And that if you notice in an electoral map that the two bluest dots on Idaho are Boise and Moscow, Idaho. Moscow is where the university is. And, of course, we'd know why it's blue up in that area. But then you've got all these people fleeing California, going to places like Idaho. But then, unfortunately, they flee because of bad legislation and high taxation. But then they bring their political viewpoint to a red state and vote accordingly, correct?
Correct. They just vote how they voted for what they, in California, they vote the same.
Yeah.
And then they just turn their state into what California is, and I don't understand that.
One of the things that I have been a stickler about, and I know that your pastor has been too, Brock, is getting more churches off of their blessed assurances and getting engaged in the political process. As you are promoting, if you will, and going to churches to talk about reclaiming California capital ministry when you have the opportunity to do so, are you seeing pastors embrace this type of an effort, or are you seeing a little bit of apatheticness towards this? What is your take as you're going around talking a little bit about this?
It's tough to get pastors on board. I'm not quite sure why. But it's hard to get them. I understand that pastors have to be at their pulpit, and I get that. And that's kind of the reason why I want to do this, is because I know my pastor, Pastor Scheidbach, needs to be at his pulpit, and he doesn't have time to be up at the Capitol all the time. And I go there and I look at the line of organizations that have paid employees that come to support all these horrific bills. And I think, where's the church? The church doesn't have any representatives there. And there's just a line around the room. And, we have got like 3 or 4 people that represent the church that are there. And that's what I want to do, is I want to be a representative of the church. And I think we need more churches to get involved and get representatives there, and at least calling in, and at least writing letters and doing things like that.
It's unfortunate, because here we have a state that is, almost 40 million people. Obviously, we've bled about 1 million to other states. But of that 40 million, only less than a quarter of that actually votes. Mm-hmm. And of the evangelicals here in California, not all of them actually engage in the process. And so it's not just frustrating for you to try to get the pastors off of their backsides, but then it's the parishioners out of the pew and getting engaged in a more political way. Do you think that the left has successfully browbeaten the conservative right and the Christian right to kind of keep silent? Because if we don't, we're going to get doxxed, we're going to have our 501c3s threatened, and all those kinds of things. Do you think that kind of stuff has successfully played into the mindset of a lot of Christians?
Yeah, they've successfully convinced Christians that the church shouldn't be involved in politics, and which I think is absurd because the church is the pillar and the ground of truth, and that's where the church needs to be. We need to be speaking the truth at our capital, and I don't know how it started or but they have successfully done that, where churches are afraid to be political for some reason, when we should. Every prophet in the Bible spoke to their leaders and gave God's word and God's commandments to their leaders. Everyone. John the Baptist did it. And
he lost his head over it.
He lost his head. So hopefully I don't lose my head, but that's what I'm trying to do, is trying to get involved and get other people involved and get the church back into the capital and back into politics, because we are the pillar and ground of truth, and they're not going to get truth unless the church brings it to them.
How much has your pastor and the spirit that he has fostered there at Lighthouse, how much of that has kind of gone into your decision to engage in this ministry to the capital? Because I've known your pastor for 30 years, and he's always been rather vocal about a lot of things, politics notwithstanding. But how much has his input come into your thinking in this?
Oh, probably 100%. He's always been on the side of church needs to be involved in the government, politics, and we've always done that, but not to the extent that I want to do it now. But we've always been involved. He has his radio show also, and it speaks on politics, and so he's been a huge influence in my life. Him and then my brother, because he's up there in Sacramento, and that's when I started going to the Capitol, because he's right there 45 minutes.
Your brother Brandon pastors Faith Baptist in Wheatland. Cal. Yeah,
yes.
And Wheatland is about 40 minutes north of the Sacramento area.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
But our Pastor Scheidbach has been a huge influence, and the number one influence in my life to get involved into politics.
Yeah. And of the churches that you've been to, what is the number one thing the pastors say about why they haven't really been engaged and why they're still on the sidelines?
Mostly it's because they don't have time.
Yeah.
That's what they're telling me. And my brother talks to a lot of them too, and it's just, I just don't have time. I want to be there, but I just don't have time.
My thing is this. Obviously, I'm a pastor. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I do a show. There's all kinds of things that I do throughout the week. But I think it's important to find time for important things in Sacramento. Obviously, I can't be there every week, which is why it's important for churches to support somebody like yourself.
Yes.
To be able to stand in that gap. But then there are times when a bill like the bill we just talked about just a few minutes ago here,
yes, SB 3080.
SB 3080, there might be some times when you can't go there, but you can call your legislature, you can find your rep, and talk about this bill, AB 3080. And there's times when you actually need to mobilize as a body and go up there and get into these committee rooms.
Yes.
and say, my name is such and such, I represent such and such church or such and such organization, and I object to this bill.
Yes. Yeah, and it makes a big difference, especially if they know you and they're looking right at you, the senators and the assemblymen, and they know, there's been times when they weren't going to say anything, but they saw us there, and then they decided to say something or even vote differently because they see that they have a constituent in the audience there.
Yeah.
And so it does make a difference when they see you there, see you stand up to support or to oppose a bill.
Yeah. Now, tell me about. I'm gonna sidetrack ever so slightly from Reclaiming California ministry, and talk about former President Donald Trump. Obviously, we've got a big election coming up in just under 6 months. All the polls seem to suggest that Trump is going to win. There's a side of me that think it's a huge psyop on Republicans to just kind of sit back on their laurels and not worry about it, and then Biden ends up winning again, by the eke of his skin, kind of like he did in 2020 in just 3 states. What is your take on former President Trump? Obviously, there are a lot of Christians that just can't stomach him because of his crassness, his language. Now, I've gotten past that because I realize that what Trump is Trump is like an apocalypse. He's a revealing of things. It's not so much of what I know about him, which is no secret because he's been in the public eye for over 35 years, with his own television show, The Apprentice, and all that. So we know about the man. Many of us knew about this and reluctantly voted for him in 2016. Maybe more broadly in 2020. But he's an apocalypse in the sense that he's revealing the inner workings of the government and the corruption that we all knew was there, but now it's like, it's all exposed.
Yes.
So is it important for Christians to look at him in that way as opposed to saying, I need a pastor, not a president?
Well, so I didn't vote for Trump in 2016 because I was done with voting for the lesser of two evils kind of thing. And
you weren't going to vote for Hillary.
No. And so I did vote, but I did not vote for Trump. And but then he got in and he did a great job.
Yeah.
I believe we didn't go to war. He cleaned out, exposed all this mess that's going on.
Apocalyptic is my word.
Yes, apocalyptic. And so I really like Trump. I'm a little disappointed in his stance on abortion right now. And so I'm wavering a little bit on him, but I do like him. And I think we need someone like him that will go in and clean it up and just get rid of all the mess that has been hiding there for a long time that he exposed. And so I'm encouraged. I think, it's looking good, but who knows?
Off the air, for our next break, I'm going to tell you what my theory is on Trump's vocalizing his position on abortion.
Okay.
A couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you my theory on that, but I'll do that off the air because I wouldn't want the enemy to use that against him. But I do have a theory about that.
Okay.
But I will say this. It's the safe Republican position that every Republican has taken. But of course, you and I are strict abolitionists. We would want abortion abolished tomorrow.
Correct.
We know that it's not going to happen tomorrow, barring a miracle of God. But many of us would have said 3 years ago, you think Roe would ever be turned over?
Yeah.
But yet Roe got overturned, and here we are almost 3 years later, believe it or not, Brock, and it's still overturned, but abortions continue.
Yes.
And so how do you communicate the abortion issue with your Republican colleagues up on the Hill and try to explain to them that the exceptions argument is actually not a great argument at all?
Yeah, and I haven't got a chance to talk to a lot of them about the abortion issue.
Because obviously we're abortion 101 here in California.
Yeah, every pro-abortion law that comes around or bill, it just gets passed and with no opposition. There is one right now that it's SB 233 where they're trying to license Arizona doctors to do abortions, and it's probably going to pass because there's really no opposition for it.
Well, we were talking about the election a minute ago in November. I believe that there are 9 seats that are up for grabs that would loosen the grip of the Democrats for a supermajority. And if we could flip those 9 seats, one of which is right here in my district, Pilar Chavo, as the Democrat, who won against the Republican. Now we've got a good Republican, Patrick Lee Gibson, running against her. He was only a point behind her after all the mail-in ballots and all that stuff was counted over the course of a month after election. But Lord willing, he's one of those 9 seats that's going to be able to flip this thing in November. But I do think, have you had an opportunity to meet Steve Garvey, or at least have an opportunity to connect with anything?
No, I have not had an opportunity to meet him.
He's one of the hardest guys to get a hold of because for some reason he doesn't really connect with the grassroots as much. I think his handlers are kind of keeping him at bay. But I think you would agree that it would be much better to have Steve Garvey as our U.S. Senator representing Washington, D.C. and California interests than Adam Schiff.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Have you had an opportunity to see him from a distance?
Yeah, no, I have not.
Yeah, because I've seen him at a distance, and pencil neck is a proper designation.
That's good.
He is indeed.
Yes.
Trump has a way of making fun of people like that. But when we return here on Politics in the Pulpit, we'll have one final segment with Brock and Reclaiming California and how you can help that ministry. And I think we might bring in his wife here and see if she has anything to say as well when we come back on your hometown station. Final segment on Politics in the Pulpit. We're talking to Brock Campbell, representing Reclaiming California Capital Ministry. Real quick, couple of shameless plugs here before we continue on with this final segment. Don't forget, if you want to visit Freedom's Way Baptist Church, services every Sunday at 9:15 for Sunday school, 10:30 a.m. for main worship, 5 o'clock for evening Bible study, and then Wednesday nights we actually have Bible study at 7 o'clock. And actually, Brock will be with us tonight at 7 o'clock and talking a little bit more about Reclaiming California. So if you are in the area, please come by and visit us at 7 o'clock tonight. Again, Freedom's Way Baptist Church.org. Freedoms with an S, Freedom's Way Baptist Church.org. And don't forget, if you can't get enough of the Bishop of Santa Clarita, every Sunday at 8 o'clock, Faith and Freedom Hour. Well, we are here for our final segment, Brock, and one of the things I wanted to do is bring in your wife for this final segment, because when you sent me the information for Reclaiming California, you had a picture of your wife and your 2 kids.
Yes.
We'll leave your 2 kids out there because, well, they're kids.
Yes.
But your wife is here,
Yes.
and I want your wife to get a little closer to that mic right there. And I want you to introduce yourself to our audience out there. If you would, Campbell's soup is good.
Well, I do make good soup.
Do you?
Yes.
It's not Progresso, though.
No. I have done that, but I make homemade.
So tell me how the ministry works with family, because you guys homeschool.
Yes.
You're still associated with your local church and faithful there.
Yes.
But yet, and if I'm not mistaken, are you still working a secular job, or how's that working,
Yes,
Brock?
I'm still working a secular job, so we're transitioning, trying to go full-time, but we haven't got the support to do that yet, so
Yeah.
still working, using vacation days and sick days and all that to get to the Capitol, so.
So how supportive is Mrs. Campbell with Brock?
I'm very supportive.
Well, speak more to that.
I love traveling, and I love going up and, speaking, offering our support and opposing these bills and meeting all the people up there.
And has your experience been meeting both Democrats and Republicans a pleasurable experience?
Yes, yeah, we really enjoyed it. It's been great. It's been really nice. I thought it would be a really scary thing, and they're so open. It's easy to go in and talk to them, and it's been great. We're building good relationships with them, and they're seeing us in the halls now and recognizing us, so that's good. I like it.
How often I know you go often, Brock, but are you able to take your wife on a lot of these?
She's been with me on every trip,
Oh,
and
okay.
she's been to almost every office with me that I've gone to.
Good.
Yeah, she comes in with all of them, right?
Yeah.
I think all of them.
With
She went-
with the kids.
The kids we haven't brought the kids yet. They stay with my mom, usually.
Oh, that's probably a good thing.
But well, we do bring them. We were at the March for Life, and they went there, and we'd like to bring them to the Capitol sometimes so they could just see the process.
And you probably are familiar with Destiny Church up there in Rockland.
Oh yeah, we've seen
Yeah,
it.
they're huge, and you got to give them credit. Obviously, theologically, would disagree with them on several issues, but at least they're vocal
Yes.
and they
Yes.
get out there to things.
Yeah, I think it's Joe Patterson's chief of staff. Actually, was a youth pastor there. I forgot her name, but yeah. So Tiffany from she was youth pastor at Destiny.
Youth pastor, her
Yes.
youth pastor.
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be a topic for another day.
Yes.
Yeah. So if folks wanted to support or find out about Reclaiming California Capital Ministries, where would they go, Brock, to find this?
Well, you could email me. I have my email address is brockrc5@gmail.com.
Brock RC5
Yes.
at
gmail.com.
gmail.com. Now, what does that stand for?
Well, Brock and RC is my middle initial in Campbell,
Okay.
and then the 5 was there was 5 of us at the time. Now there's 7, so it's 5 kids. That's what it stands for.
Gotcha. All right. All right.
Or you can go to social media. We have on Instagram. We have our Reclaiming California on Instagram. It's
Okay.
just Reclaiming California.
Anything on Facebook?
Yes, same thing on Facebook, at
Okay.
Reclaiming California on Facebook.
Okay. And what does someone like Brock Campbell need on a monthly basis to survive in California? I kind of know what the answer is, but in order to get you full time,
Well, to get me full time, we're shooting for $6,000 a month.
and that'll just barely get you over the finish line.
That will barely, but for California, that's not much. But I think we can make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Mrs. Campbell, when your husband came to you and said, I think the Lord's, burdened my heart with his ministry, your first reaction was?
Yes, I was very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been for it. We've been praying about it for a couple years now. We had been at the March for Life and both really enjoyed that and really wanted to get more involved with that and going out to Planned Parenthoods and then going up to the Capitol. And so, yeah, I've been very excited.
Have you guys had an opportunity to stand in front of Planned Parenthood and
Yes.
preach and do all the things that we do in front of Planned Parenthood?
Yes. We still have a ministry to Planned Parenthood in Santa Maria, and we haven't been in a few months because of the Capitol, but we were going once a month to that Planned Parenthood.
Good. I would encourage you to continue to do so
Yeah.
because
Yes.
the objective is to get that thing closed
Yes.
down.
Yes, we're trying to get it closed for
Yeah.
sure. Yes.
Any opposition when you get out there? Because I know they always like to use the FACE Act and say if you're not a certain distance away from the entrance to the facilities, that we're going to charge you for obstructing these people from coming in here to kill their babies.
Yeah, we get a lot of opposition when
Yeah.
we're there. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Have you had an opportunity to actually minister to somebody that actually says, you know what, I came in with the express purpose of killing my child, but I've decided not to.
We haven't had that yet.
I've got some pastor friends, some of which Pastor Max Graves, Evangelist Paul Abbott, and some of these guys that are big time abolitionists, and they've seen some successes where they've gone in there and people have come in with the intended purpose of killing their baby, and then because of a moment of preaching or an opportunity to witness in a very intimate moment, the Holy Spirit just kind of changed their mind about that.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we've had that. We just don't know it. No one's come back and told us that.
Yeah,
yet,
yeah.
So,
Last word here to you, Brock. If a pastor who might be listening would like to schedule you, how would they do that?
you could that same email, or I can give you my phone number.
You can
call
do
me.
that. You can do that.
My phone number is 805-680-9525, and give me a call. And
Did you just put your phone number out on live radio?
Yeah, and I'm gonna.
You're
going
going to get a bunch of leftists
well,
prank calling you like I get all the time.
All right. Well,
It's a lot of fun.
I'll deal with it. It'll be fun.
Oh, it's amazing. I had a bomb threat not too long ago. Somebody, they said, it was right before Christmas. They said, we'll see you on Sunday. And then said something about boom. And then I'm assuming that was, the whole,
Really?
yeah. But you know what? That means that we must be right over the target, right?
Yeah.
We're talking their language. So, well, I'd encourage folks to check out Reclaiming California Capital Ministry. Again, Brock and his wife, as well as myself and my family and our church here at Freedom's Way Baptist Church, our desire is to see California reclaimed for the cause of righteousness and holiness. We do see that there is a separation of church and state, but we understand that biblically, not the way it's usually defined by our leftist friends. And I often tell people if there was such thing as separation of church and state and they really believed it, then they would not have butted their nose into our business in 2020 during COVID. So obviously they don't believe it like they say they do. But I encourage you guys to get out there and look at Reclaiming California. Get a hold of Brock Campbell. If you're somebody who would like to get their pastor involved in something like this, or to have Brock come in to speak, again, Reclaiming California Capital Ministry, get a hold of Brock Campbell, or get a hold of Pastor Cook. I happen to have Brock's number as well. And one more time with your email.
It's brockrc5@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening in to Politics in the Pulpit. This is your hometown station and the Bishop of Santa Clarita saying we'll catch you next Wednesday. God bless.
You've been listening to